There's a chance that arriving at this message today wasn't really an accident. Something deeper, something almost unexplainable, nudged a person toward these words at exactly this moment in their life, and that alone is worth paying attention to. Here's the thing that most people won't say out loud, the thing that might actually sound offensive to the overly religious and naive to the cynical. God is not slow, and He is not cruel, and if someone is still waiting for their person, it doesn't mean they've been forgotten. It means they've been specifically chosen for a love story that required more preparation than most. The counterintuitive truth that changes everything is this: the very fact that it hasn't happened yet might be the strongest evidence that something extraordinary is on its way. This isn't a motivational speech dressed up in Bible verses, and it's not a comfortable collection of things people say to make the lonely feel better temporarily. What's here, in these 7 signs, is a raw and honest look at the hidden language God uses when He's actively working on a marriage, quietly, deliberately, and with a precision that will make total sense in hindsight. If there's been a pulling in the chest lately, an unexplainable mix of longing and hope, a sense that something in the spirit is shifting even when nothing on the outside has changed yet, this may be the answer to the prayer that's been going up night after night. Don't leave. Read every word. Because what's unfolding here just might be the confirmation that changes everything. There's something uniquely painful about waiting for love when the world around you seems to be moving at full speed. Everyone else appears to be getting engaged, posting wedding photos, and building families. And yet here someone is, alone on a Friday night, wondering if it'll ever be their turn. That silence in the house, the empty side of the bed, the table set for one. It can start to feel like a message. But what if that silence isn't a sign of abandonment? What if God's spirituality working in someone's life looks less like a grand announcement and more like a quiet, sacred pause, a holding space between where they are and who they're being prepared to become? The Bible is full of stories about waiting seasons that felt unbearable in the moment, but turned out to be the most important chapters in someone's life. Joseph sat in a pit, then a prison, before he stepped into his purpose. Ruth walked through grief and desolation before Boaz ever laid eyes on her. These weren't accidents of timing. They were divine appointments wrapped in patience. When a person feels unseen in their desire for marriage, it doesn't mean God has forgotten about them. It means the very thing they're longing for is being cultivated behind the scenes, in ways their human eyes simply can't see yet. That longing itself is evidence of something real, a seed God placed in their heart that He fully intends to water. The silence isn't empty. For someone truly walking in faith, the quiet seasons are often the loudest in terms of what God is doing internally, in character, in healing, in spiritual depth. The person they're being chosen to love one day deserves someone whole, not someone still carrying yesterday's wounds into tomorrow's vows. This isn't about being perfect. It's about being prepared. And preparation, by its very nature, happens in the unseen places. When someone begins to honor the silence rather than fear it, they stop fighting the process and start trusting the one who designed it. That shift in perspective isn't just emotionally freeing, it's spiritually transformative, and it's often the very thing that opens the door to the next chapter of their love story. Most people don't recognize it as a blessing when someone walks out of their life. They recognize it as loss. The sudden distance of a friend, the unexplained fade-out of a romantic interest, the painful ending of a relationship that once felt so right. These exits rarely feel like gifts in the moment. But there's a pattern that shows up again and again for those who are serious about marriage and about building something real with another person. Before the right one arrives, the wrong ones tend to disappear. Not always gently, not always quietly, but they go. And while the heart aches through those departures, God's spirituality is often doing its most protective work right there in the middle of the goodbye. The Bible doesn't sugarcoat the reality that not every connection is meant to last. Proverbs reminds believers that the path of the righteous gets brighter and clearer as they keep walking. And that clarity often comes through subtraction, not addition. When God is preparing someone for a God-honoring marriage, He doesn't just add the right person to a cluttered life. He clears the space first. That means the situationship that was going nowhere, the almost relationship that kept draining someone's emotional energy, the person who was comfortable but never quite chosen in the deepest sense of the word. All of it gets moved out of the way. It can feel like rejection. It can feel like failure. But it's actually divine redirection wearing a painful disguise. What makes this sign so easy to miss is that it doesn't look like progress. It looks like loss. Someone who's been through a string of disappointing connections might start to believe the narrative that something is wrong with them, that they're too much or not enough, that marriage is just not in the cards. But that's the enemy's interpretation of a God-authored story. The truth is, every wrong relationship that ends is a door closing on a detour and a hand pointing back toward the main road. When someone starts to see the removals in their life, not as punishment, but as protection, something shifts in their spirit. A quiet confidence begins to replace the fear, and they start to move through the world like someone who actually believes they are being led toward something beautiful, something real, something chosen just for them. There's a particular kind of peace that doesn't make logical sense, and anyone who's ever experienced it knows exactly what it feels like. It's not the peace that comes from having all the answers, or from finally seeing how everything is going to work out. It's quieter than that, deeper than that. It's the kind of peace that shows up in the middle of uncertainty, in the middle of the waiting, in the middle of a season where nothing on the outside has changed, but something on the inside has shifted completely. For someone who's been praying and believing for a God-centered marriage, this unexpected peace isn't random. It's one of the clearest signs that God is actively working behind the scenes on their behalf, even when the evidence hasn't shown up yet. The Bible describes this exact experience in Philippians, a peace that surpasses all understanding, that guards the heart and mind in ways that human logic simply can't manufacture. It's not something someone can talk themselves into or fake their way through. When it arrives with authority. Suddenly, the panic about still being single starts to lose its grip. The obsessive checking of dating apps, the comparing of timelines, the anxious prayers that sounded more like demands than conversations with God. All of it begins to quiet down. That's not complacency settling in. That's spirituality doing what it was always designed to do, aligning a person's inner world with the truth that they are seen, they are loved, and they are absolutely being led. The peace is the confirmation before the manifestation. What's remarkable about this sign is how countercultural it feels. The world says that if someone wants marriage badly enough, they should be hustling for it, strategizing for it, losing sleep over it. But God's way has always looked upside down to the world system. When a person stops striving and starts trusting, when they lay down the timeline they were white-knuckling and actually rest in the process, that's when things tend to move. Not because peace is a magic formula, but because peace is a posture of faith. It says, without words, I believe God has chosen someone for me, and I trust His timing more than my own fear. That posture changes everything: how someone carries themselves, how they show up in relationships, how they treat the people they meet. And sometimes that very shift in posture is exactly what God was waiting for before writing the next line of the story. One of the most overlooked signs that God is preparing someone's future spouse is the undeniable pull toward personal growth that suddenly shows up in their own life. Out of nowhere, there's a hunger to heal old wounds, to break patterns that have been sabotaging relationships for years, to understand why certain dynamics keep repeating themselves. Therapy starts sounding less intimidating and more necessary. Old grudges that were being carried around like comfortable baggage suddenly feel too heavy to hold on to. The desire to become a better version of oneself stops being a self-improvement cliché and starts feeling like a genuine spiritual calling. That's not coincidence, that's preparation. God doesn't just prepare spouses for each other. He prepares each person to actually be ready to receive and sustain the love He's designed for them. The Bible is remarkably consistent on this point. The outward story almost always reflects what's happening inward first. David was being shaped in the wilderness long before he was crowned. The inner work wasn't separate from the destiny, it was the foundation of it. When someone genuinely committed to marriage starts feeling that deep, sometimes uncomfortable push toward self-examination, toward confronting fear of vulnerability, toward learning what healthy love actually looks like. That's God's spirituality at work in the most intimate way possible. He's not just sending a spouse, He's building someone worthy of giving and receiving real, covenant love. And that kind of love requires people who've done the hard, unglamorous work of knowing themselves, healing themselves, and choosing themselves in the healthiest sense of that phrase. What makes this sign particularly powerful is that it quietly filters out superficiality. The inner work strips away the version of love that's really just loneliness in a costume, the kind that grabs onto anyone available just to fill a void. As someone does the work, their standards naturally clarify, not in an arrogant way, but in a grounded, spiritually anchored way. They start to understand what they actually bring to a marriage and what they genuinely need in a partner. They stop being chosen by default and start moving towards something intentional. They stop confusing intensity with intimacy and chemistry with compatibility. And all of that discernment, all of that hard-won clarity, becomes the very gift they'll one day bring to the person God has chosen for them. Someone who will recognize the depth in them because they took the time to find it in themselves first. There comes a moment in the life of someone who's been genuinely seeking a meaningful marriage when the fog simply lifts. What used to feel like a confusing blur of wants, needs, and compromise suddenly sharpens into something surprisingly clear. It's not that they've become picky in a defensive way. It's that they've become discerning in a spiritually mature way. The laundry list of surface-level preferences starts to feel less important, and the deeper qualities, integrity, faith, emotional availability, genuine kindness, move to the front of the line. That shift in clarity isn't something a person manufactures through journaling exercises or personality quizzes. It's something that gets deposited into them through seasons of growth, prayer, and honest self-reflection. And when it arrives, it feels less like a decision and more like a revelation. The Bible speaks often about the importance of wisdom in choosing rightly, not just in business or in leadership, but in the relationships that shape a person's entire life. Proverbs 4 urges believers to get wisdom above everything else, because wisdom is the thing that protects the path. When someone begins to seek God's guidance, not just for who to be with, but for who to become, wisdom starts showing up in their choices in deeply practical ways. They stop entertaining connections that have no real foundation. They stop mistaking good chemistry for God's confirmation. They start asking better questions, not just, do I like this person? But, do I respect this person? Do our values align? Could I build something that lasts with someone like this? That kind of questioning isn't cynicism. It's the spirituality of someone who understands that marriage is a covenant, not just a feeling. What's beautiful about this sudden clarity is how liberating it turns out to be. For so long, confusion about what they wanted kept many people stuck in a cycle of almost relationships and half-commitments that never quite got off the ground. But clarity cuts through all of that noise like a clean blade. When someone knows what they're looking for, really knows, at a soul level, they stop wasting time and energy on connections that were never going to lead anywhere meaningful. They start showing up differently in conversations, on dates, in the way they present themselves to the world. There's a quiet confidence that comes with knowing what you're chosen for and refusing to settle for anything less. And often, that very confidence becomes magnetic, drawing towards them exactly the kind of person who matches the vision God placed in their heart long before they even knew how to articulate it. There's a peculiar thing that starts happening to people who are on the verge of a major breakthrough in their love life. Confirmation starts showing up everywhere, almost as if the universe itself is underlining a message God has already been whispering to their heart. A sermon they almost didn't attend speaks directly to the longing they've been carrying in private. A Bible verse they've read 100 times suddenly lands differently, with a weight and a warmth that feels almost personal. A trusted friend or mentor, completely unprompted, speaks something over their life that echoes the exact prayer they said alone in their bedroom 3 nights before. These aren't accidents, and they're not wishful thinking. They're the breadcrumbs of a God who communicates with his people in ways that are tender, specific, and unmistakably intentional. The Bible is filled with examples of God confirming his plans through multiple channels before the fullness of those plans arrived. He confirmed his covenant with Abraham more than once. He spoke to Joseph through dreams that came in pairs. He used Gideon's fleece not once, but twice, because he understood the human heart's need for reassurance in seasons of uncertainty. When someone is earnestly believing God for a marriage that honors him, those confirmations aren't a sign of weak faith. They're a sign of an attentive father who knows his child needs encouragement for the road ahead. The confirmations are his way of saying, "Keep going, don't give up. What I've promised, I will deliver." And for someone who's been waiting and wondering and praying, those words, even delivered through a song on the radio or a stranger's offhand comment, can feel like oxygen to a soul that was running low. What makes this sign worth paying close attention to is the pattern of it. A single coincidence is easy to dismiss, but a pattern is harder to ignore. When the confirmations start stacking up, when the same theme keeps surfacing in different contexts, through different people, in different forms, that's not the mind playing tricks. That's God drawing a circle around something he wants a person to notice. For those walking in genuine spirituality and faith, learning to recognize these divine signals is part of the journey toward the marriage they've been believing for. It requires a kind of attentiveness that drowns out the noise of doubt and fear and replaces it with something steadier, a deep, anchored knowing that they are not forgotten, they are not overlooked, and the one God has chosen for them is being prepared with just as much care and intention as they themselves are being prepared. The story isn't over. In fact, the best part is just getting started.